Russian Express today in studio painter Cory Trepanier.
Yeah.
He's very great man and
Thank you.
make very imagine
Thank you.
pictures. And Cory, please speak about your paint and trip and your life explore.
Sure. You know, I'm an artist, and one of the things I'm really passionate about is painting the Canadian wilderness. And so I've had the opportunity to go to many places in the north that not many people see, including painting all across the Canadian Arctic, places like Ellesmere Island, the very top of Canada, Baffin Island, the eastern Arctic, the western Arctic, the south central Arctic, big wild places, and I bring my paints with me on location and try to put what I see onto canvas to the best of my ability in the limited amount of time that I have. Lighting changes quickly and conditions change. But then I continue to work on the painting back in the studio, and sometimes develop those paintings into much bigger pieces, like some of the ones in this room, this bigger one behind me. And hopefully when these big paintings are done, other people get a sense of what it's like to be there. So that's my inspiration, is to paint these places and share it with others.
As you say, you know, before your dream, couple year or how many years?
Well, I started
before start your first trip.
Yeah, well, I went to college, Sheridan College, and I spent 10 years doing paintings for ad agencies and magazines. So it wasn't until about 2001 that I really went on my first big trips, and that's when I went for a month in each season to Lake Superior and Georgian Bay, canoed and camped, brought my family. My daughters were only 2.5 and 6 years old at the time. We went out as a family because I couldn't leave them behind for a month, so I said the kids got to come too. And I painted, and we also made our very first film from there too. And so that was back in 2001. And since then, went to a few other places and made 2 more films, and I'm working on now a new film called True Wild Kluane. And last summer I went for a month to Kluane National Park in the Yukon.
It's very nice.
Beautiful place. Another beautiful place where I painted what few people in Canada even know. And that is, I painted the biggest mountain in Canada. And sadly, very few people know. They're not taught in school, it seems. But the biggest mountain in Canada is Mount Logan. And he's up at 10,000 feet in the ice fields in this place last summer. So anyway, that's some of the beautiful places in this country.
It's very hard. You have big equipment, yeah?
I've got to bring everything out there. It becomes... Oops, sorry. Go ahead, just shut the door and we'll just start that question over again.
I'm sorry.
Okay, good.
Okay, start again.
Let's speak about your equipment, just your equipment and for painting.
No, for sure. Well, and of course I have to bring camping equipment because I'm sleeping in the tent, and I've got so there's food, and on long trips when we go for a month, my wife Janet does a lot of dehydrating the food to try to make it a little bit lighter. So there's all the regular stuff you need to go camping, and then I bring my other stuff for my creativity. And so I bring my easel with me, which is it's a box, a wooden box about this big, and it has legs and it all spreads out. It's called a half box French easel. That box, then that just carries my paints and my brushes, and then I need to carry something to paint on, so I carry other boxes with panels with canvas glued to them. So before I carry anything else, I have my paints, and my painting gear weighs about 25 pounds. And then everything else goes on top. But then we also film the trips, and so we start bringing tripods and high definition video cameras and charging panels, solar charging panels to keep our batteries charged while we're filming. And I bring still cameras to take pictures too, because I can't remember everything. So it winds up being a lot of gear. So the last trip our backpacks were about 90 pounds each, which was better than the trip before.
More question. This romantic style for life, or you just working hard?
Well, there's certainly a romance. There's a romance. It's a passion, And for all the long hours and all the effort that puts into it, if you don't have the passion, you wouldn't, you know, if I didn't have the passion, I wouldn't be doing it. And so it's all motivated by the desire to explore these incredible, beautiful, wild places, and then to try to do something with it on canvas. So at its core, everything is about going to remote places and painting. And that's where there's a certain romanticism to that, because I'm experiencing incredibly beautiful places.
Yeah.
And hopefully, you know, in my paintings, trying to give people a taste of that beauty. And all the other stuff, the filming, all that all becomes just, you know, it's a big circle, but at the middle of the circle is getting out there and painting.
Do you feeling involved safety or sometimes it's dangerous?
Well, there's, you know, I think it can be just as dangerous driving down the 401 or more dangerous being on a big highway in a car. But you take precautions. You know, for example, before going into the wilderness with our young children, my wife Janet and I did a 4-day wilderness first aid training course. So if something happened, we know what to do first aid. You know, we train before going on the trips. We physically train to try to get in as good a shape as we can be, because you're carrying heavy packs and you're out in the wilderness. If you pull a leg muscle, there's nobody there to get you out. And so you learn to be self-confident, but also self-reliant. And so it's through all those things that, and it all adds to the experience of being out there, because when you're out there and you really feel like you're by yourself and there's nobody for thousands of kilometers, then it's this cool feeling. But then on the other side, you've got to realize and be prepared so that it's safe.
You have everyday connection with your family?
When I'm in the trip?
Yeah.
I try to. I do bring a satellite phone, and I try to keep in touch every few days. Now, earlier, the trips, we were a family when we went on the trips together, so we had everyday connections all day long. The kids were in the tent with us, but as I went to a few other places, they weren't very family friendly. So when I went to the Arctic, the high Arctic, you know, there's places where there's a lot of polar bears, and you're crossing, you know, glacial rivers that are really cold. And so in cases like that, the family didn't come, and with the satellite phone, we'd be in touch every couple of days or so, just to make sure everything's good. That is nice. But that brings up another side of it. On the last big Arctic trip I did, which was almost 2 months long, after about a month I was getting pretty homesick. You know, I really missed my family, and it was only because I then relocated to another place, and everything was new again, that it helped me get through missing home, because I got to see new stuff again. And after another week, I got to move again somewhere else, and then finally I made it back home. And I said, I don't want to ever do a 2-month-long trip again without the family. That's too long. But it was worth it.
And no, thank you for speaking. And what do you think about next step?
Well, next step, like there's the next step that's right in front of me, and that is finishing these big paintings that I have around me this summer. And the paintings I started from my Kluane National Park trip, which was part of the True Wild project, finishing those paintings and finishing the film from it. And so that's going to keep me busy for the next few months. But then after this year, into 2015, I'm hoping to do chapter 2 of True Wild, which would be a month up in the Torngat Mountains National Parks in the northeast side of Labrador.
This summer?
No, next summer, in 2015.
15,
because I saw so much in my last trip that I started more paintings than I thought I would, and more big ones. And it was so I need to finish all these paintings first before I go back out on a new one. So I'll be busy for the next few months painting and finishing a new film, and then hopefully back out again.
And you have help for your trips, financial, or is this just you?
No, the biggest well, for example, on all my big trips, whether it's the Coast to Canvas project or Into the Arctic or True Wild, I had clients who were part of our project. So I presented some of our clients an opportunity to be part of the project by buying paintings before I did the paintings. So before I'd go on a trip, I'd show them everything I planned to do, and some of our clients would purchase a painting. Of course, no paintings existed yet, but they put money up front, And then when I went and did the trip and came back, they get to pick first. And that was a really big thing for me, that clients would be willing to invest money into paintings that didn't exist yet. And as a result, it gave me a lot of confidence and faith to pursue my passion that way. And they got to select first in the collection. We give them films. We do everything we can to say thank you. And then more recently with True Wild, Parks Canada became a part of the project. They collaborated with me and helped me get out to Plowani National Park for the month. And what I've done for Parks Canada is I did a couple of speaking engagements in Toronto and Ottawa, especially trying to connect younger people, 18 to 35 kind of thing, with the idea of getting out to our national parks. Because the average person going into a national park is 52 years old, and they haven't been bringing their kids much. And so there's a big hole of young people who aren't experiencing nature. And so through what I'm doing, we're working together to try to reach some young people with the idea of getting out there. And so that's Parks Canada has become a bigger part of what I'm doing now with this new project.
This is a great idea.
No, thank you. And then there's a lot of companies that I worked with on the last trip, people like Jill Pangman and and Brian, who are like, one is a mountain guide, the other one is a river rafting guide, and they help me get down the rivers, and the airlines, Air North, help me fly around up there. So there's a lot of different companies too, I've got to say, who've helped out along the way.
And you give time for usually life.
Yeah, well, I try. That's
you have big house, territory, and dog, family.
Yeah, it's always the challenge is the amount of hours one has to put into making a living at something creative, it seems. Many late nights till 5 in the morning, 3 in the morning, working late. But I've got 2 wonderful daughters who are 19 and 15, and my wife and I are always there as much as we can whenever the 19-year-old is singing and doing concerts, and so we're showing up there and helping. So we get to spend time doing all that kind of stuff. And this summer, because I'm not doing a big trip up north, it's time for a family trip. So we can all go somewhere different.
Where? East, north?
Well, actually, we may go somewhere different. We're talking about going to New York City. Something in the opposite direction for a little change, because, let the girls see a different side of the world a little bit too. And of course, we'll probably go see the Guggenheim Museum and see some cool art while we're there. So.
Understand you. I have a friend. He here.
Yeah.
He lived before what? In a small village, and after he like new life, no, different.
Yeah.
In big city, Toronto, and different style life.
Well, there's no danger that I'm going to fall in love with New York and want to move to New York. I don't think that's ever going to happen in my lifetime. But it will be a nice change of pace to see something different. And our girls are young, and it's nice for them to, see a different side of the world too. And it'll be a little a little road trip to get out there. This is my wife Janet, and of course Janet has been not only a great support, but she's been actively involved in 2 of our major projects. Coming out as a mother with our 2.5 and 6-year-olds. That's a whole other challenge, when you go into the wild. It's one thing, but when you bring little kids with you, that brings a whole other level of responsibility. And Janet could talk about that probably, taking care of young kids out there. But she's been awesome. Yeah.
I saw first video Arctic 1.
That's right.
And it's together and for children, mosquitoes.
What was the hardest part about bringing the kids for you?
Really, it's just when you have children, you're always looking out for them all the time. So a lot of times you're not noticing the stuff around you, even because you're always focused on making sure that they're okay and watching where they're going. And they were pretty little when we started, so it's hard to always see the beautiful scenery. Sometimes when we were in the canoe, it was great because they can't go anywhere, so you can actually look around. And you know where they are, right behind you. But they were great. The kids were. That was our first big trip when they were little. And I really didn't know what to expect from them because they were never in a canoe before or out camping. And children they just take it naturally, and they loved it. They just would play with sticks and stones and feathers and whatever. They just were happy wherever we went. As long as they were with us, they were happy.
So as if
That's what kids
great
are like,
parents.
right?
Yeah.
So
And
it was pretty easy actually. It takes you a couple weeks to get into the swing of things and where everything is, your food, your clothes, because you're always unpacking, packing, and moving all the time. So you get better at it and faster at it as you go. But it was good. The kids were great. Yeah.
Who buy your art?
It's primarily individuals, people who've come across my work either through my films on TV or they've come across it through my website. They're people who just find my work and they seem to really enjoy it and they have it in their homes, and so it's mostly all private individuals who buy my work from across Canada and some outside of Canada. Yeah.
Would you like visit Russia or Ukraine,
Oh, absolutely.
Europe?
There's so many places on earth I'd love to go paint someday, and Russia has a lot of wilderness like northern Canada, from my understanding and looking at where everything is. So I think there would be a lot of beautiful places to paint out there, and there's a rich history of fine art in Russia and painters whose work is in the landscapes and so on. So
Yeah, sure.
I'd love to visit the museums as well.
Yeah.
So,
Cory opened Canada for Canadian people in the world.
well, thanks.
And thank you one more time.
My pleasure.